Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Oregon here on Wednesday morning, January the 17th, a very frigid morning across much of the eastern half of the nation as we begin the day here on Wednesday. It looks like more accumulating snow is coming to the mid-Atlantic region on Friday, probably begins very early in the day and continues until late in the day. And that system that will move off the mid-Atlantic coastline will usher in another Arctic air mass for much of the eastern half of the nation. Much of the nation. Next week, we'll see a January thaw. It looks like first the warm-up will begin across the central part of the U.S., and then it'll translate all the way into the eastern states. And certainly by the time we get to the middle part of next week, most areas in the eastern U.S. will be above normal. And it looks like that'll stick around for at least a few days going in towards the end of the month of January. Here is a temperature anomaly chart as of 6 a.m. this morning from weathermodels.com, and the Tennessee Valley really is the winner, or maybe I should say the loser this morning in terms of the highest departures from normal, as much as 40 degrees below normal right across the Tennessee Valley. Very, very cold morning here in the Mid-Atlantic region. We have some snow cover finally that froze solid overnight. Some suburbs of Philadelphia to the north and west of Philly, for example, down near 10 degrees. So any snow or ice that developed yesterday, frozen solid this morning. It's around 10 degrees all the way down to Huntsville, Alabama. And again, the core of that cold air shot right now is focused over the Tennessee Valley in terms of those departures from normal. Well, let's talk about the next several days, including that accumulating snow threat for Friday in the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, that will be followed by another Arctic blast that affects much of the eastern half of the nation this weekend, and then a warm-up next week. Let's start off by, using the Zero-Z GFS model run from last night. This is the conventional version of the GFS model. We're looking at 500 millibar height anomalies beginning this morning, Wednesday morning, January the 17th, and will extend all the way out through much of next week. Large scale upper level trough centered over the southern part of Canada, extends all the way down into the U.S., much of the northern U.S. below normal heights this morning. Still have that high latitude blocking pattern with much higher than normal heights, much higher than normal pressure, centered over northern Canada this morning, extending into Greenland. Now, the complicated forecast for Friday, because what happens is we get one kind of center of this upper level low rotating around, spinning around into the eastern part of Canada, and there'll be another couple of short waves rotating through this larger scale upper level trough into the northeastern part of the nation. This is midday tomorrow. Now we go all the way into Friday morning. Here is the energy that will help to intensify low pressure off the mid-Atlantic coastline during the day on Friday. And one of the key questions is how quickly that low pressure area can intensify. It will move east-northeast off the coast, and we'll have this upper level support moving in from northwest to southeast. And we'll take a look at the vorticity maxima with the next series of charts, and they will certainly play a key role in potential banding of heavier snow in the Mid-Atlantic region on Friday. Here we go into midday on Friday, then late in the day on Friday. Again, this kind of secondary system hanging back from, splits off from that main upper level low, and this is the key to the outlook for Friday in terms of that accumulating snow event for the Mid-Atlantic region. Now, we'll move quickly through the weekend, and again, an Arctic blast all the way through from north to south, all the way down into the southeastern part of the nation for the weekend. Again, many areas that are very, very cold this morning. Tennessee Valley, southeastern U.S. will get cold again, way below normal with a weekend Arctic blast. Now we'll go quickly into next week, and notice all the orange showing up here. This is by early Monday morning right here. Upper level ridging takes over the Great Lakes, much of the eastern part of the nation. Maybe a slow warm-up in the Mid-Atlantic region, maybe the 30s on Monday, but then the 40s likely for afternoon highs. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, the 40s, maybe in the 50s throughout the latter half of next week. going into the following week. And this upper level ridge will certainly cause a January thaw in much of the eastern half of the nation, certainly by the middle of next week and the latter part of next week. Now, the following week, the last week of January going into February, there are certainly some signs that changes will return to the eastern part of the nation. This is the end of next week. We'll go out a little bit farther in time, and we'll start to see a little bit of a hint here of some upper level troughiness starting to try to form back over the northeastern part of the nation. And here we go all the way to the end of the month, and we see some evidence that troughiness will start to try to reform over the eastern part of the nation. This is now all the way out 2 weeks from today, the last day of the month of January. So certainly a January thaw is coming, but there are some signs that things will then get back to normal during the following week, which again, the end of January going into the early part of February. This again is 2 weeks from right now. Well, how does all that translate to the 850 millibar temperature anomalies? Again, very cold air this morning across the eastern half of the nation, with the coldest core of this air mass centered over the Tennessee Valley in terms of the difference with normal. 40 degrees below normal as we speak here across much of the state of Tennessee, for example, and very, very cold all the way down into the southeastern states. Well, we'll move forward here, and that chill eases some on Thursday in the Mid-Atlantic region, but here comes yet another Arctic air blast by Friday morning into the central part of the nation, a kind of another widespread area of well below normal temperatures at this particular time on Friday morning, focused over the center part of the nation. And this is the time low pressure will be starting to intensify off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. It has some upper level support, and we'll look at the vorticity centers next. And there's also a kind of what we call a baroclinic zone with it. Quite a temperature gradient this time of the year that sets up along the eastern seaboard with the still relatively warm waters of the western Atlantic contrasted with the cold landmass just to the west. So again, kind of a natural temperature gradient here will help out with the intensification of that low pressure area just off the Mid-Atlantic coastline during the day on Friday. Let's go beyond that. Once that system pulls away, Arctic air will flood the eastern half of the nation. Here we go. Again, centered perhaps on the Tennessee Valley in terms of relative to normal conditions here, and a very, very cold Saturday, and it looks like that'll continue into the day on Sunday right here across much of the eastern half of the nation. But then next week we'll start to see above normal temperatures show up here, first over the northern plains, the central part of the nation, and then it'll extend into the eastern states. Certainly by Tuesday we'll be likely back up in the 40s, DC, Philadelphia, New York City, and warmer than normal conditions likely Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Once that thaw begins, it'll stick around for several days, no doubt about that, and maybe even, as this is indicating here, intensify some by the second half of next week. This is the forecast map for next Thursday, more than a week away, and we'll go out quickly into the following week. And as we mentioned before with the 500 millibar pattern, there are signs that will return back to normal conditions by the end of the month here. Here we go all the way out 2 weeks from right now into the last day of the month, January 31st. Again, a lot of colder than normal air starting to show up again during that last week of January, which also includes the beginning of the month of February. Now let's walk through the vorticity maxima predictions here by the 0Z run of the GFS. We have a one system right now over the eastern states, but that's not the key player here for the Friday event here in the Mid-Atlantic region. We'll move forward here, and this is tomorrow. Could be a touch of snow, by the way, with a kind of a forerunner type system, a bit of snow in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region on Thursday. But then here comes one of the two main areas of energy. This is Friday morning, and here's a second wave right here. At this time, low pressure will be starting to form off the Mid-Atlantic coastline, and this is certainly a key player, and this second vorticity maxima or spin in the atmosphere is a key player as well. We'll go out a little farther in time. And here we go, midday on Friday. And typically, you get your best snow bands to the north of that upper level vorticity center. So we're talking about probably like areas like this across southern Pennsylvania, southeastern PA, including Philly, maybe up across east central PA, to the north of that vorticity area here. But this is something we'll pay particular attention to over the next day or two. And also, the second system then slides south and east, and depending on the exact phasing time of these systems will play a big role in how much ends up falling in terms of snowfall on Friday. If that low pressure area along the Mid-Atlantic coastline can amplify quickly, that increases the chance for more significant snow over the Mid-Atlantic region. As it stands right now, a few inches on the table, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and maybe a little bit more in the Philly metro area, let's say, compared to D.C. or perhaps even New York City because of the positioning of that upper level vorticity center. That's the sort of thing we'll focus in on over the next day or two. Then we go out a little bit farther in time into the weekend, and this is when Arctic air will reside over the eastern third of the nation. A very, very cold air mass for Saturday into Sunday across much of the eastern half of the nation. And then, of course, we mentioned before, we start to get that upper level ridging to pop up again. First warming in the central part of the nation, and then that translates all the way to the eastern states by the time we get to the middle part of next week. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps, again using the 0Z GFS, the conventional version of the GFS. Very, very cold day today. There still will be a noticeable northwest breeze, so it'll feel even colder than the actual air temperatures. Again, starting off in that 10 to 15 degree range in many of the suburbs along the I-95 corridor region, with snow and ice frozen solid on the ground. Let's move forward here. High pressure in control, but there will be a touch of snow in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region on Thursday. Not the main event. It looks like the main event will get underway very early in the day on Friday, probably in the 4 to 8 a.m. time frame. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, that's on early Friday morning. And here is that low pressure area we talked to as of Friday morning. At this time, it'll start to intensify. That upper level support starts to move in, and this will intensify. It looks like it'll move in an east-northeast direction, not northeast along the New England coastline, but rather east-northeast as it amplifies or intensifies. Notice now down to a 998 low. Snow, accumulating snow midday on Friday. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. I think the best snows may form across southeastern PA, maybe central New Jersey area. We'll just have to focus in. That's getting kind of fine-tuning the details here. And here we go into the evening hours on Friday. Again, early in the day, that system situated here. By late in the day, pretty far off to the north and east here on the eastern edge of this particular map. And then the snow will kind of end from northwest to southeast late in the day on Friday across the Mid-Atlantic region. Here comes that Arctic blast. This is early Saturday morning, and this is really, I guess I would term this as a direct discharge of Arctic air from eastern Canada all the way down the eastern seaboard. This is just a flood of northerly winds bringing in that Arctic air mass. Very, very cold conditions with a fresh snow cover by the time we get to Saturday morning throughout much of the Mid-Atlantic region. Very cold all the way down into the southeastern states. That cold air will certainly stick around all weekend long. This is into midday on Saturday, and this Arctic high will be in control. Look at that, 1043 Arctic high center right over the Tennessee Valley. Expect, again, very cold conditions Sunday morning, even into Monday morning. Possible single-digit lows in some of the suburbs of the Mid-Atlantic region. And it looks like, again, the core of the coldest air relative to normal centered over the Tennessee Valley by the time we get to Sunday morning. And look at this backside of this high right here. This is where your warm-up begins late in the weekend here, with southwesterly flow of air across the center part of the nation on the backside of that Arctic high, but a lot to go through before that warm-up ends up in the eastern states. We have frigid air mass today, more accumulating snow on Friday in the mid-Atlantic region, another Arctic blast this weekend for much of the eastern half of the nation. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.